Welcome to Ryan Knows Tech. It's the 19th of, September 2012. We're here today on iOS 6 launch day. Maybe you can see my reflection in the 50-inch TV we're in front of, or behind, I guess in front of, I'm behind the camera. We're just going to take a quick look at what iOS 6 does to an iPad. It'll run on the iPad 2 or the new iPad, the iPad 3. I don't think I'm qualified to go through every feature as I've only had a few moments to play with it, but we are going to look at a couple of the key things like maps, clock. We now have a clock app. It only took Apple, 3 years now to put a clock app in the iPad like we've had in the iPhone and iPod Touch since 2007. Anyways, we're using an Apple TV 2. I don't think the quality's the greatest, especially filming a TV with a flip video camera. Please bear with me. This is the best I can do. I think it's better than that, isn't it? Maybe a little bit bigger. Anyhow, we're going to jump right into that Maps application in a minute, I guess. We have two new apps. I would count Maps as new because we've departed from Google's map service. Apple now has something of their own that we're dealing with. The YouTube application is gone. If you go to the App Store, search for YouTube, you will see that there's a now dedicated YouTube app. I think it's from YouTube or Google or somebody. Download that. It's free. It has most of the same functionality. Personally, I don't like it as much, but it does get the job done. I guess we'll take a quick look at that Clocks app first, which we now have a beautiful interface for. Down at the bottom is World Clock. We've got all the different time zones, even a little bit of weather there. We can see Cupertino, New York, Paris, Beijing, and Tokyo. And if you notice on the right over there, right where Beijing is, right here, we can see where the darkness is and where it's light in different parts of the world. So we've got the different clocks up there. You want to add one, you click the add thing on the right, search for where you are, or go through the incredibly long list. Maybe you are in Chicago. Click Chicago, and there's your Chicago clock as well as the little weather widget. So wherever you add a clock, you'll get your weather. That is the world clock functionality. Alarm. We now have the ability to add alarms. If we go and add a plus up at the top, say we want an alarm for 4:19 in the morning, get up at a ridiculous time. It's the exact same system and setup as the iPhone, but we now have this kind of calendar-esque thing where we can see where we've set different alarms, and maybe we can move them around from there. If I touch that, nope, I am learning with you. Oh yes, we can. We can move it up or down to adjust that time by 15-minute increments. So that's nice. Then there's the stopwatch. In fact, I better turn that off before I get a rude awakening. Stopwatch. Start on the left. There we go. We want to lap, we hit the left. We want to stop, we hit the right. Really, really, really beautiful graphics. Excellent interface. Really well done. Only something I would expect from Apple here. Timer. Same as before. We now have up to a 24-hour timer, it looks like. Got a little song down there. Can we change that? I am not seeing a way to change that. There's a 15-minute timer done. Pretty simple. There we go. Sounds in the top left. We can go through those sounds, and I do not see anything new in there right now. So that is the Clocks app, now in iOS 6 for iPad. Now we'll jump into Maps. Open it up. I'm looking at the flip. I don't even know if you can read the different state names, but it's very different from the Google Maps app. If we can see, in some ways it's the same. There's a search thing up at the top. It's now a little bit smarter. If we start searching for a city, say Omaha, like we did before, there it is. We don't have to type the whole thing in. And there would be Omaha, Nebraska. Of course, we are in the standard map right now. We can click in the bottom right corner, just as we did before, to slide that little page up and maybe select hybrid, which will show us a mixture of hybrid, or mixture of satellite rather, and standard to get the satellite imagery with the street names and the labeling on there. Of course, pinch to zoom in just as before. You'll see a new feature by accident that I just did there. It seems a little bit slower. I don't know if it's the hardware of the iPad 3. It's not really made for this. Probably the iPad 4 or 3S or the next new iPad. Or it could just be my internet connection. I don't know. This is probably definitely a different server, and it's bringing in a lot more content. So this is the basic view that we've had for a while, pinch to zoom and then pan around with one finger. If we wanted to zoom in on, well, I kind of just said that, but take two fingers now, put them on the screen and move them up towards the top. You can see that we can lay it down in this 3D view, which is a lot more impressive when we have a bigger city to work with. So let's type in the city, you can guess it, San Diego, California. There it is. Load it up. We'll zoom in here before we lay it down at all. In the bottom left, you will see a button that normally says 3D. When you're zoomed out of somewhere, if I go out over the ocean here, it'll probably go back to 3D. Nope, we still have buildings. Here's the cool thing though, they demoed this in the Keynote last week. If we hit that building button, it now turns blue and it lays us down a little bit. In just a moment, when everything loads, we will see the buildings of downtown San Diego shoot out of the ground like that. They're 3D models, they're computer generated, they're not of the highest quality. They're definitely par, they look really good, it's a really cool feature, but I would like to see something a little bit higher quality in the future as they develop in their hardware and software. So we can move it around like this. Now take two fingers and kind of like you're going to rotate a photo in the Photos app. And if I can do that, then we can turn around. You'll see the compass on the top right under the search bar. Maybe you can't on camera, but it's there. It rotates, tells us which way north is. And as I move, the labels are still there. There's Horton Plaza. Turn around out towards Coronado Island. And the Marriott that we always stay in when we go to San Diego is right here. We'll let that load up, and it actually has a 3D model for it, including some trees, which again are not of the highest quality. We can see those are supposed to be palm trees there. I apologize if this is not turning out well on camera, but we'll rotate around, face I don't know, southeast right now, maybe northeast, northwest. I'm sorry. Those are supposed to be palm trees, but you can see the pool. I don't know how they've done this. It's almost like this is not a 3D model. It's just taken the map and stretched it up, which I don't know how that works, but it's very cool. So a lot of big cities have the 3D model buildings already. San Francisco is the one they demoed, being in San Francisco. Cleveland, Ohio, there's big city to me, is not done. I didn't check Columbus. I'm sure Akron isn't. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Denver, Houston. All of those big cities are most likely, they've been, I don't know what the right word is, maybe optimized for the new software. But it's a little laggy. I'm moving my finger in a smooth motion right now, but think about how much it's processing. It's got to put all these 3D buildings on here and rotate them around. And it doesn't rebuffer everything when you rotate it, notice. Now, if I bring new content in, it does have to rebuffer that, of course. But nonetheless, very cool feature. And it actually looks like the Coronado Bay Bridge is three-dimensional, sticking up out of the ocean there. So that's very cool. They've done a really good job with this. I do not know if I would prefer this over Google Maps at this point, due to the fact it's a little bit more quirky. It doesn't seem as high quality. It is supposedly all vector-based, which is good for video rendering and processing, but it does work very well. Now, a bigger feature that I really should do another video on is maps on the iPhone. The iPhone 4, 4S, and 5 now have turn-by-turn directions, which took them long enough. There's been third-party applications that could do this for years, but now it's finally in here, and it may actually do it with this too. If I click directions in the top left, we'll do current location to San Diego route. I don't know if it'll give me turn-by-turns for 2,400 miles. It does say loading. Actually, it will. So if we had a 4G iPad, we could select the way I went in June, which is Route 1. We click Start. And I don't know if we're going to get the audio. I don't know if my TV audio is on right now. But notice it does tell us exactly where to go and how to get there. So very useful, very interesting, tells us exactly how to do it. Step by step by step by step. 323 miles, 500 feet on I-94. Yeah, 27 steps to get there. So that's the Maps app. I probably missed a few things in there. If you want to play with it, go to the Apple Store and mess around with it. One of the last things that I even know about and that I'm going to demo in the new iPad OS here, iOS 6, is Siri. We had Siri on the iPhone 4S, I want to say, 4S now for about a year, and it's finally on the iPad now, same as before. Press and hold the home button. Hi Siri, how are you doing today?
I am well.
I am well. Alright, well, as my iPhone starts to ring, I will shut that up. And it's the same as before, except we now have sports. We can say, I'll do the generic one. How are the Giants doing?
Which Giants? New York Giants or
I don't know anything about sports.
Giants?
San Francisco Giants.
Here are the current standings for the Giants.
Alright, so there we go. The only complaint that I've heard about Siri on the iPad now is that it's kind of in an iPhone-sized window. It's not taking up the whole screen. If we put it in portrait mode, it still shows up. If you put your iPhone on top of that, it's pretty much the 3-inch screen size of all the iPhones, excluding the 5. So it does work. Everything's here. You can send text messages and emails. It's the exact same product that we have on the iPhone now. And it is welcome on an iPad. It's more than just the dictation that we saw with iOS 3, I think, or when the iPad came out, we had the dictation in the bottom left, test, and we could input text to emails or anything like that here. So it works pretty well. Everything is fast. It doesn't really lag, aside from the problem in the Maps app. I don't have any music on here, but the music player, I do have music on here. Okay, iTunes Match must be on. But the music player on the iPhone got a bit of a UI tweak, so did a few things in the phone application. Really, iOS 6, it doesn't bring anything new and revolutionary to the table. It just enhances everything that we had before. It seemed to make it a little bit quicker. The install process for me took maybe 20 minutes on both devices. I did the over-the-air updates, and they appeared to be about 630 megabytes. Pretty large files. And just a side note, it did have to go through all of my photos and re-render everything. I think that's done at this point. I've got about 9,000 photos on here. We go to the map. We now see the new map here with all of my, except the ones in the Caribbean. The Caribbean photos in Florida didn't do that yet, or Hawaii. So not all my photos are done yet because they're not showing up on the map. But you get the idea. That's iOS 6 on the iPad. Nothing huge, but it does make the experience better. If you've got an iPad, you might as well update. It's a free update. Let me know what you think. Let me know if I missed anything huge. Oh, the App Store. I should talk about that. We have a new looking App Store today. If we go to updates, you can see that lots of developers have optimized their applications today for iOS 6. A couple tweaks here. If we want to download one, we no longer have to input our long password every time. We just click update, and it says waiting, and then it will say downloading, and it doesn't go and bring you back to the home screen like it did before. So we've got iBooks. Looks like mostly Apple stuff here that was updated. And a couple other things as well. Podcasts, that's Apple. And voice memos for iPad if you have that. The whole user interface has changed a little bit here. I really haven't looked at it yet. Still feeling a little slow. Maybe it's just my internet, but we do have paid, free, top grossing apps as usual, featured, categories, purchased. Looks like all the same stuff. It is just laid out a little bit differently, looks a little bit more streamlined, and that's the whole point of iOS 6, to kind of smooth over the iPad iOS experience, make it work a little bit better with iCloud. Speaking of iCloud, we now have the iCloud tabs. It's the little cloud icon up there in Safari. So if we were to click on that, I'm not going to do it now because I have tons of stuff open on the other machine, but it's up there. You click on that and it will open up a list of the different tabs you have open on different devices. So if you had a tab open on your Mac at home, going over some documents, and you're on the iPad at work, you pull it out, it knows what's open on your other products. So that is a really simple way to see that. We also have Facebook integration, finally something that I know a lot of people have been waiting for. It's integrated just like Twitter, so if we wanted to share a photo, we could go to photo, and instead of just being able to save to camera roll or anything like that, tweet, we can now do it right from, from the Photos app once you log into your Facebook here. And then there's the Do Not Disturb feature. If you were to turn that on, it wouldn't tell you about emails and texts or anything like that. It's pretty self-explanatory. Do Not Disturb. Privacy, I have not looked at that yet. There we go, location services. Yeah, and this is just going to be privacy and safety settings for you. And then in our little drop-down menu from the top, we pull that down. Still has emails, stuff like that. There's also a tap to tweet function now, similar to what we saw in Mountain Lion. So that's kind of a shortcut instead of having to open the Twitter app, which I keep going on and on, by the way, has been optimized. It's been updated for the iPad, new version. It's just a little bit better. A little bit easier maybe. Still a little slow for some reason. Maybe I need to restore my device, but everything's here and everything works. Thank you for watching this video. Again, leave me those comments. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Thursday. Maybe we'll pull the iPhone out and do the same kind of idea. Take a look at it. A couple more features, I think, available on the iPhone. And then, of course, the iPhone 5 on Friday. Very excited to see that, and I'll talk to you in a future video. Thanks for watching. Thanks again for watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.